Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dads on the Rocks podcast. As always, I am your host, Freddy Maas. Today is a very special edition of the Dads on the Rocks podcast. It is our 1 year anniversary, kind of. We kind of started in May, but I'm not really going to count those first couple of episodes because that was just me talking with nobody else. In related news, today's episode is just going to be me talking with nobody else. I do not have a guest today on my show for the June 2022 edition of the Dads on the Rocks podcast. It's going to be just kind of me talking as a year one roundup kind of thing. A look back at the last year and what a shit show it was for all sorts of reasons. But in a terrible world of uncertainty, the Dads on the Rocks podcast is always there to make it worse. As always, we begin with a drink. Today, I am having a beer from, if you saw my post the other day, when I'm recording this, as of right now, it is from Burial Brewing Company. And this one is called Because There Will Always Be Something More. And I thought that was a little bit apropos for parenthood and dad life and things like that. Because when you get over one thing, there's always going to be something more. I highly doubt that that's what they were going for when they named this beer, but even still, it was apropos for me tonight. So, to nobody else on this podcast, but to you all out there listening, cheers. Speaking of which, if you did see the picture, you saw that I'm drinking it out of my Dads on the Rocks tulip glass, courtesy of Terra Pence. I'm going to do that for a while. I'm sorry, Terra. I'm sorry, Robbie. But again, thank you again to Terra for making those for me. Those are awesome. If you also saw the picture, you would see that I am currently chewing on Twizzlers. Why am I doing that? You asked. Number one, because they're delicious and red vines do not compare. There, I said it. Number two, I'm trying to stop vaping. I have been vaping for over 10 years now. April 21st of 2012 to be exact is when I started, because that was the day that I quit smoking. And I had, at this point now, vaped for longer than I ever smoked. So it's a terrible habit. I still think vaping is way better than smoking. Not great, but it is what it is. Much better than smoking cigarettes or what have you. But I'm trying to kick it all together because I'd like to be. I don't know if it's going to have any adverse effects, but I'd rather do nothing instead of something. So I would like to be around for when my kids grow up. I would like to see what kind of terrible monsters they become, and how I can love them even then. So, today is day 2 of not vaping, and it's been very difficult for me. A couple weeks ago, I started with 0 milligram nicotine, and while I was vaping, and I've gone through a serious bout of depression and eating, higher appetite, shorter temper. It sucks. Nicotine withdrawal is a pain in the dick. But more so, it's a pain on your family because I'm being an asshole and I don't like it. But at the same time, in the long run, it's better for me. So, sorry, family. Thank you for putting up with me. Something I did want to kind of touch on before I get into you can hear me chewing on Twizzlers. Before I wanted to get into the first year roundup, I want to talk a little bit about the show and what's been going on with me and everything. So my family and I recently moved to North Carolina. If you listen to the show, you probably already know that, but we recently moved to North Carolina from South Florida. We are adjusting to this new lifestyle. Both of us have new jobs. We're in a completely new and different environment. It's very strange for us. It's very scary for us. We're dealing with this, did we make the right decision? Was this the right move? We're very lucky to have gotten a house, and a house that we absolutely love, next to some very cool people that we're already friends with. We hated to leave our previous neighbors, but we were glad to get awesome neighbors as well moving into this house. But we're in this whole new life and this whole new chapter and adventure, and it's scary for us. And we're dealing with a lot trying to move into a new house. Stephanie has been an absolute rock star trying to unbox, and while also taking care of the kids while I'm at work during the week. I have the kids on the weekend, and I don't know how she has them for 5 days straight without going absolutely nuts. Steph, you're amazing, and I love you very, very much. But it does take a lot to unpack and get adjusted and everything. And all the while trying to do this, essentially this hobby of mine is having this podcast and talking to other people, to other parents and everything. And this essentially boils down to my hobby. I don't get paid for this. This is not something I do for any kind of financial gain at this point. If somebody wants to sponsor me, hell yeah, I'm all for it. That's awesome. But at this point, no, I spend, a solid amount of money to make sure that this podcast is on several platforms. I go the cheapest route and the freest of anything that I can go because, again, this is all just for fun and everything. I do have a lot of fun doing it. I do like talking to other guests, but my life is very, very hectic right now. That's why I'm doing away with the middle show, the mid-month show, just for now at least. And also just trying to schedule guests and everything and people backing out. Honestly, I wasn't going to do a year in review. I had a guest that's going to be, coming up soon, I'm sure. But they had to back out due to medical reasons, fucking COVID. So, I mean, it is what it is. I totally get it. I understand. Like, one of these days, I'm probably going to get it, and I'm not going to be able to record it, and there will be a missed show. But, it is what it is. That might be a fun thing, is to do a Rona episode, like recording with Rona, and do it by myself. A quarantine kind of thing. I don't want to come back to that. But that'll be an idea for another day. Do you guys remember quarantine? You remember how much fun quarantine was? Being able to work from home, and like for me it was really awesome because I was in a new position. I had to pay attention, but for the most part we were in the pool all the time because it was like April and South Florida, so it was 90 degrees, which, by the way, in North Carolina, nobody ever told me that the weather is so bipolar. I had frost and not snow, but I had ice on my windshield 3 weeks ago. And it's been 90 degrees ever since. I don't understand. I mean, it's 60 in the morning and then it's 85, 90 in the afternoon. I don't understand. It's very weird. I enjoy it. It's just strange. It's a whole new world. So I think I mentioned that there was something that I did want to talk about, and it's having 2 children. I realized a lot about myself in the past, I don't know, 6 months maybe. Going from 1 kid to 2 kids is a lot, and it's different. It's a whole new ball game. You cannot focus all of your attention on just the one child. Just try and imagine if you have one child out there and one of them just wants to play and okay, I'm going to say a girl because I have a girl, play dress up and everything, and that's all you want to do, but you're not allowed. You're not allowed to play with that child because you turn around and there's another one trying to kill themselves every 3 seconds or trying to break something. It's very difficult. And by the end of the day, you're so exhausted that you don't even want to play dress up. You don't want to play with that first one or whatever. And it makes you feel miserable because you feel like you're inadequate as a parent, and it just weighs on you. I've been going through that for like I said, 6 months or so now. Ever since the baby started walking, ever since that point, you have to constantly look after the other one. Yes, you can kind of play with the older one, and then while you're feeding the baby, you can. I don't know. It's doable. And then once the baby starts walking, it's all over. And I do not regret having a second child. Let me be very clear about that. I do not have any regrets about having a second child. It's just I'm in the thick of the worst part. I mean, if you have kids, you remember a year to 3. 1 to 3 sucks. It's a really crappy time. And if you have kids that are younger than that, get ready because it's the worst possible time. But it does fly by when you look back. But when you're in the thick of it, it drags and it sucks and it's very difficult. I mean, they're very cute at that time. There's a lot of learning. That's another thing. I can't sit and read a book not Harry Potter or something, but a book with Allie because Andrew has climbed the stairs already. And I want to read to both of them. It's just again, by that point, I'm exhausted. I'm trying to clean up. I'm trying to put dinner away. And then Andrew gets bored within about 6 or 7 seconds. So it's very difficult with 2 kids. And if there's anybody out there with tips on how to get over this hurdle, without losing my damn mind, by all means, please feel free to write in, text me, or write in dadsontherockspodcast@gmail.com. All right, so today I, again, am doing just me, just Freddy. But I do want to do a year in review kind of thing. I was going to reach out to some of my previous guests to say, hey, I'm going to do a year in review. Is there anything that you would like our listeners to hear? Any kind of update that you would like to give them? And you know what? I didn't do that because I did not plan very good for this. I was also going to get permission on to say a couple things because I'm privy to a little bit of information. And I did not do that either. But in that case, I'm just going to say some things anyway with, the correct amount of discretion. But going back, the first couple of episodes and like mid-month episodes, I'm not even going to go over because that was just me wanting to get some practice in recording and do some stuff. But number 1, my brother, Michael Maas, the very first guest, the inaugural guest on the Dads on the Rocks podcast. I learned so much from that guy, good and bad. I'm still learning. He called me the other day, and I really do like when Mike calls me. And I hope all of you listen to this because I'm going to speak to each one of you individually too. Mike, I really do like when you called me because it reminds me how little I contact my siblings and it makes me feel like an asshole. So thank you for bringing me back down to earth. I talk to our sister all the time and you guys are seriously second seat, but it really reminds me of how much I have to learn from you as both a parent and a husband. Mike did call me the other day, and my sister-in-law Valerie got COVID, and I'm like, oh no, are you guys quarantining? And he's like, no, it's fine. She's laying on the couch next to me. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, there's nothing we can do about it. At this point, and I think that's everywhere too. Like, there's such a, luckily it's not nearly as bad as it used to be, and people are just, oh, okay, I have it. All right, well. It sucks. All right, I guess. But, it's a sickness. And I take that with a grain of salt. Everybody's different. Everybody has different experiences. But, Val, I hope you do feel better soon. And Mike, I hope you don't get it and give it to the rest of the kids. And I hope your 3 are doing great. I love you guys. Andre, I can always count on to do a wellness check when I never expect it. And sometimes I need it, sometimes I don't. But it's always comforting to have it. And if you don't know, I like to do wellness checks on some previous guests. It's the whole reason that this it's the brainchild of where this podcast came from. And if you don't know, I reached out to a buddy of mine after he had his second child, and I said, "Hey, how are you doing? Are you okay?" At that point, I had already gone through having a second child a month or 2, 3 months prior to that. So I knew it's difficult, it's tough, and you may need to talk to somebody. And I said, guys don't really have that. We don't have a support system for where people just randomly check in on us. We're supposed to have this macho and, I can handle it, push the pain down, push the feelings down. That's not okay. That's not healthy. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a release to relieve a little bit of that tension and say, dude, I am not doing good. Thank you so much for asking. Do you have a minute? And be willing to listen. And if something is wrong, absolutely be willing to listen. And also have that connection with somebody. Andre is the one that I can always text and say, I need a vent. Can I just word vomit for a minute? Andre will never say no. He will never say, a lot of people won't say no, but Andre is one of those people that I've done that for him too. And you may not be looking for advice. You may be looking for advice, but if you are, I know that the advice is going to be sound. I absolutely know that he's coming from a cool head and a very similar outlook on life than I am, a similar perspective on parenthood. Actually, his is much better than mine is. But Andre, thank you very much for that. I'm very glad that the brainchild of this entire podcast lives within the people that have been on this show, and I think I haven't done that enough. I haven't done enough wellness checks on other parents that have been on this show, and I think I need to do that more often. And I'm going to try and live up to your standards. So, Andre, thank you. Arian Moore. Arian, one of my absolute best friends, a guy that I've known for a very long time, and I attribute quite a great deal to. Somebody that I love very, very much. Arian was on the show July-ish, sometime around there. He was the third guest, I think. Arian's son, Fox, who was just a little bitty baby at that point, is now 1 year or about to be 1 year, depending on when this comes out. I can't really remember when Fox's birthday is. Sorry, Myra. No, Fox is adorable. He is 1, and he's probably walking, or almost about to be walking, and you guys are in for a real treat. Luckily, I get to see pictures of Fox all the time because Myra is very good about putting pictures of Fox up, and I don't say that facetiously. It's very nice when I get to keep in contact with people that I don't get to see all that often or talk to all that often via Facebook. And Facebook sucks because it's toxic and trash, but those great things about seeing the things that you actually want to, it's nice for that. Arian, I did learn to hit the record button prior to recording, and I've forgotten that several times in the past year. So I guess I learned nothing from my mistakes. Let's see what next year brings. Paul Handy, Paul, the fourth guest on the show. He was about to become a dad. He was, I guess his lovely wife was about 6 months pregnant, something like that. She gave birth to their lovely daughter, Christmas Day, I believe, of 2021. So their daughter is roughly around 6 months. That's another one. I get to see photos of their daughter all the time, and I cannot tell you how happy I am. She is adorable, and I love seeing pictures of them. And they're just so happy. They look like the cutest little trio, and it's amazing. I really do love seeing pictures of you guys. Paul, I hope that you are falling into dadhood smoothly, but I surely know that you're doing it happily because I can see in the pictures that you are doing an amazing job, and you're just very, very happy, and that's all that matters. Oh, and the baby's happy too. That too, I guess. Terrell Smith, my lord. I haven't talked to you in a while, unfortunately. I hope that you guys are okay. I hate to say it, but out of sight, out of mind. I haven't had any interaction with you guys, unfortunately, since I relinquished custody of Snorkbork, which is, if anybody that doesn't know, the predator statue that I've had in my office for years, that Allie named, Horsebork. But I hope he has found a new home and a happy and loving home, and I'm sure that he did. I look forward to what you guys do in September and start in July, August for Halloween. And now that we have a 2-story house in my own home, I have some certain silly, crazy ideas for Halloween, and I'm very excited to look into that a little bit further. See if I have time if the baby doesn't try to kill me while also trying to kill himself. Christian Rogers, the next guest on the show. Christian is... No, I'm not going to do that. Rogers, one of the guys that I miss quite a bit from South Florida, because he was somebody that I work with, colleague at the Pembroke Pines Police Station. Almost every morning we would always have what we called coffee and capes, where we would talk superhero stuff, all the happenings and goings on and trailers and stuff like that. Did you get to see this movie? No, not yet. All right, we'll see it. We got to talk about it. We did that for quite a bit of things, not just superhero stuff, but mainly with superhero stuff. And I miss our coffee and capes. Right before we left, one of the things that we did was have one of those sessions at my house, and it was very, very nice having him come over before we took off. And we still talk all the time. Rogers, I miss you a lot. I miss our morning sessions, especially with Archie around, because the trio of us, got nothing done. but we were not productive, but we had a good time. Mr. Jonathan Sundy, congratulations on the birth of your second child. It's no secret at this point. If it's Facebook official, then everybody knows. So very happy for you guys. I hope that you guys are settling into 2-kid life smoothly. I hope that you guys don't have it as difficult as I do in the next year and a half or so. You guys do approach parenthood with grace and poise and cool heads from everything that I've seen. And that is going to do wonders for your sanity and for your relationship with your kids going forward. And I don't know you guys all that well, but from what I can see, I could learn a thing or two from you guys as well. I do hope you guys continue on with the Holden hashtag and the Holden quotes and things like that, because those are very clever and I always enjoy those. Caesar Altamirano, probably saying it wrong, but it's not my fault. You don't have your real last name on Facebook, so sorry, Caesar, it's your own fault. Caesar, I haven't seen you in so long. I hope that changes one day soon. I know we may never see each other again. I don't know, but thank you for explaining what NDS was. That was amazing. That was, something that I can check off my bucket list. Caesar, I think it's incredible how you could come into a relationship where there's already a child existing, from coming into that as a package deal and having love for that child that is unquestionable and unfathomable and unwavering. That's something I have great respect for. That's not just falling in love with a person, that's falling in love with a person's person. And that's on another level. My hat goes off to you, sir. David Tombley, the next guest on the show, who reappeared later on, but we're not going to talk about that show because that had too much alcohol in it, so we won't even mention that one. David I got to live with for 3 months while we made our transition up here. David and his wife Dawn and his kids Abby and Emily were very patient with us. I know it's a lot having foreigners in your house, especially a 4 and a 1 year old. It's not easy. It's not fun. We have different lives. We have different routines, and we made it work. And you guys were very gracious hosts, and we cannot thank you enough for helping us with our transition into North Carolinian life. We're happy to be in our own home, but we do miss being able to be there with you guys all the time. Sometimes. I do remember David talking about when he was a guest on the show of, occasionally playing Uno with his younger daughter, Emily, and, the trials and tribulations of, teenagers and preteens. And I got to witness that firsthand, and I am absolutely terrified. I don't know how to stay relevant. I hope that I can still connect with my kids. It's something that I feel like as a teenager, you just become so distant and so reliant on your own thoughts and your friends and statuses and stuff like that. And I hope that I can still be close to my kids and make sure that they know that I care about them and that they can always come to Dad. So David, thank you for giving me a glimpse of my future. It's terrifying. Mr. Chris Sisley, I still have not met you. I don't know that we will ever meet. If I ever come to New York, I am absolutely going to hit you up because you have such an immense knowledge of life in New York. If you guys do not know Chris and his wife, I'm blanking on the name. I apologize, Miss Sisley. But they run a show called Christmas Time in the City podcast. It's all things Christmas. It's an all year round thing. They do all sorts of different themes around the holidays, and go check out their podcast. If you like Christmas, if you like New York, they're a great podcast to listen to. To be honest, I haven't caught up on their show in a couple of months because I've been understandably busy, but I do hope to catch up and get caught back up very soon. So I hope you guys are doing well with your little one. Adriana Graham, the inaugural woman on the Dads on the Rocks podcast, the Moms on the Rocks podcast, as she so fittingly put it. Adria, I love you so much. I don't know that there's anything I can say to do that justice. I miss you incredibly. I regret not being able to hang out with you a little bit more often while we were down south. I know that you're getting ready to go on your own adventure pretty soon now that the birds are leaving the nest. God, I miss you. I hope you come up and visit before you take off. There is nothing I can say about Adriana Graham that she does not already know. There is no better choice other than possibly my own wife, who would have been a better choice for the inaugural mom on the Dads on the Rocks podcast. She is something else. No words. Should have sent a poet. Daniel Mejia, my oldest friend. He is a guy that fatherhood suits him very well. I remember when Allie was very young. God, she was less than 6 months old. I don't even remember where I was, what I was doing, but Danny was in town, and he was there with his wife and their 2 kids, staying with his mom, Susan. And I could see the absolute love that he had for those kids. Actually, when I pulled up, he was he was hosing out the midsection of the minivan because his son had gotten sick in the car after a day at the beach, which was weird and funny. It was not like a sick thing. You just got like a car sickness or whatever. I don't know. But I was in that very early stages where I was exhausted, not sleeping. And I remember going into the apartment, and his wife, Ashley, saw that the baby was getting fussy. It was Allie. She was getting fussy. And I said, hey, can I borrow a microwave? I just want to heat up her formula so I can feed her. And Ashley, God love her, she was like, hey, I'll take care of it. Let me feed her. If you're okay with me feeding her, I'll wash my hands, whatever. I've done this before. I haven't done it in a while. It'd be nice to do it. Let me feed her if you don't mind. So I said, it's fine with me. Are you sure? She's like, give me the baby. So Danny and I got to have a drink while, Ashley was, and it's cute. Their 2 kids just went over and like hung out with Allie being fed by Ashley and was just watching the baby. So, I was a watchful hawk watching because I have to be, but it was nice to sit and just have a beer with my old friend. But I'll never forget that. So I hope you guys are doing well. Love y'all. Jonathan Rubenstein. Again, another one of my oldest friends. Friends since high school, but brothers since day one, I think. Jonathan and I have been through more than I can ever begin to explain, more than anybody wants to hear, that's for sure. Jonathan, I was your best man at your wedding. I am the best man in your life, and don't you ever forget it. I love you, brother. I miss you. You guys were one of the reasons why we were still being held to South Florida. We can't imagine being that far from you guys for too long. Jacob is now 3.5, I think. He was born January 25th, so he's almost 3.5, and I love how much better his speech has gotten. It's like I said in a previous episode, from 2 to 2.5, there's a lot of development. From 2.5 to 3, it's crazy how much better their speech gets, and then from 3 on, it's like you have a kid, you have a person with you. It's wild. And something I will say, something that I've noticed myself, John, since Jacob is getting to this age, just remember, he's still a kid. He's going to start talking like a grown-up almost. And something that I've been dealing with, like with Allie, is I forget that she is only 3-4 years old. She's just a kid. She doesn't have that logic behind her. She's very, very bright, and the kids can be very smart at that age. But you got to remember, they're just kids. And that's something that I'm actively dealing with now. Like, she's very smart, but she just doesn't get it all the time. And give them a little bit of leeway. Give yourself a little bit of grace trying to learn that. And just remember, let him be a kid. Stephen Chalicombe, he was a guest that I had never met before, but I guess I never met Chris Sisley either. But Stephen answered the call on Facebook. I threw a line out there, and Stephen answered. So on completely a whim, and that was awesome. It was very, very nice talking to Stephen. I don't have a hell of a lot to say, sorry, because we don't have a whole lot to talk about, I know. But I will say it was awesome to get a military perspective on parenting and dad life and having kids with special needs. That was very interesting, and it kind of puts things in perspective for my own life and anybody else dealing with, kids with special needs, and how the different situations that parents can have. So that was, very eye-opening and very interesting. So, Steven, I hope you guys are doing well as well. And if you haven't already, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, Steven runs a podcast called Chally and the Boys, where they talk about the Dallas Cowboys and maybe other stuff. I'm not a football guy, so Steven, I'm not gonna lie, I have not checked it out. I hope you're enjoying your foray into podcasting, but I am not a football guy, so I may not listen to it ever. I'll be to be completely honest, but I hope you're enjoying doing it. That's all that matters. Mike Flynn, Mr. Michael Flynn from Ireland. It was a pleasure having you on the show. It was, I'll admit, very exciting to have somebody in Ireland doing the show with me in America. I didn't know exactly what to expect. I threw a line out on Reddit, and you answered the call, and I'm very, very grateful that you did. It was very, very nice speaking with you. I'll be honest, it was very difficult to hear what you were saying a lot of the times, and I was a little nervous talking to, a new guest that I didn't know. And then when I was listening back on the recording, the accent just was, thicker than other times. But it didn't help that the connection, broke here and there. So I didn't know if it was the accent or the connection or my nerves. And I'm like, what the hell did he just say? But no, it was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And thank you again for doing the show on somewhat short notice to do for St. Patrick's Day. Mr. Kevin Venema. No other person has ever gotten me to drink vodka at 10 o'clock in the morning. So that was on a Sunday. But no, it was really cool to hear the perspective of a parent with a daughter who's preteen, and the transition going from, kid to preteen to going through puberty, and how that transition is going. It's kid to little lady, and it sounds terrifying, and it sounds sad, like you're losing your little girl, and I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't think you ever lose your little girl, but I think your little girl loses herself into being a little woman. These little women. And that's got to be a really rough, transition for any mom and dad. And I don't look forward to it. And I think sometimes we just go through them so slowly that we don't really notice. And then we look back like, oh, where'd my little girl go? Where'd my little boy go? But that was really nice to hear that perspective and get feedback from a dad with a kid that's going through that. So thank you for that. Miss you. I love you. DJ Valentine. Not a dad, but one of the best damn podcasters that I've ever had the pleasure of listening to for over a decade now. DJ, one of the triumvirate of the Simplistic Reviews podcast, with a show out the 1st, 15th, and 20th or 25th, I can't remember, every month. He was integral for me starting this show. Very, very open and honest with how things go. Very willing to help and work with me and give me pointers. And in turn, I say allowed me to do some guest work and voiceover work on the Simplistic Reviews podcast and some sketches. he would say I'm helping him out, but he is helping me out because I've listened to that show for so long, and it was very nice to give back. DJ, thank you so much for doing the show. When I heard back from a couple of people, they said, listening to DJ, he's really good. I'm like, yeah, he's been doing it forever. He's really good. DJ, you already know you're one of the guys that I absolutely love to talk TV and film with. Basically, because I don't know jack about actual filming techniques and stuff, but I love learning about it. And you actually do, and you can appreciate those things, and you like to teach people, and I love to learn from you. So, so to you, I say thank you, and hello, friend. Austin Bell, another guy that I really don't know. He just happened to answer the call on Reddit. Austin, thank you very much for biting at the line. It was really nice talking to you. It was so interesting to hear the perspective of somebody who has twins, and kind of debunked what I used to think was, like we talked about man-to-man coverage. Like, you do diapers, I'll do wipes, and then I'll throw them back to you for jammies and stuff like that. No, it's like you guys both do it as a team. That way you both get exposure to both all the time. And I never really thought about that. And I think that is, a better way to do it. It's never really occurred to me, but I never had twins, so it didn't have to occur to me. But now it's cool to see that other side of it. And on top of that, your girlfriend, you guys have not known each other all that long. You guys were together for, a while, and then now you guys have 10-month-old, 11-month-old twins now. That's amazing to me. And I hope everything is, going well for you guys, and that you guys are adjusting to that, out of newborn, into the almost toddler, very early toddler stage, because I know it's a little rough, and I don't know how you're going to deal with the two kids running away if they just dart in different directions. I don't know what you do at that point. So Godspeed. I hope you guys are doing all right. And last but not least, my final guest, me. No, I'm not going to say anything about that. That's stupid. Thank you to everybody that's been on the show for this past year. It's been an absolute pleasure, again, talking to all of you this year. Different experiences, different points of view, everything like that. And in the end, nobody knows what the hell we're doing when it comes to parenting. We're winging it and just trying not to make our kids, screwed up. Just love them and try not to let them eat the stuff underneath the sink. I mean, like, keep them alive, keep them happy, keep them loved. And try and make them smart, I guess, when you can. Make them a good person. I mean, that's really all you can ask for. Don't lose your temper, because they don't know what they're doing, and neither do you. You're no better than them, so don't be an asshole, Freddy. No, this podcast, it really does mean a lot to me. I love doing it. I don't do it for, like I said, for money. This is just talking to people and for fun. And speaking of which, I'm going to try and make it a little less stressful on myself. I would love for anybody that listens to the show, anybody that's been a guest on the show, reach out to other people and say, hey, would you like to do the show? You have kids. You might like this. I would love to talk to people that I don't know, to people, to have people on the show that wouldn't necessarily do it, to bring them out of their shell, to have a conversation with somebody over a drink. That's what this show is going to be. And again, that's the last thing that I wanted to mention is going forward, the Dads on the Rocks podcast is just going to be about a couple of people having a drink, talking about things. Doesn't necessarily have to be about kids, but if you got kids, we'll talk. If you don't have kids, we'll talk too. I am a dad that's on the rocks constantly. I'm constantly in trouble, constantly having bourbon or something on the rocks. So it's still fitting. So I just want to mention that, like, I constantly talk about my kids, so I feel like talking about children still will be in the mix, but maybe it'll be more so about talking about hobbies, or talking about being married or divorce, or, whatever the case may be, pets, job life, anything. Just having a conversation with somebody where it doesn't ultimately end up in political anger or, Karens and Daves, or whatever they call the guy version of Karens, but just two people having a friendly conversation, hopefully funny, that bring some joy to people, or funny stories that their kids did, or that something that happened to them at that day at work or that week or something. Just good conversation, because I think that's what the world needs a lot of right now, is communication, and the best kind. So that's it for the year in review. Thank you to everybody listening out there over the past year. Thank you to all my guests for the past year. It was a lot of fun, and I look forward to continuing it over the next year and into the future. So for me, for my family, to yours, good night, everybody.
Good night, Daddy.